We had all these excuses on why we couldn't do it. I don't know how to do it. I've never done it before. I don't know what to do with that much money. I don't know anybody that can, everybody had a really good, legitimate excuse on why they should continue to think and play small. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Pivot Mindset Podcast. We believe here that life is absolutely all about the pivots, and those who decide to make the pivots decide to become successful. This is the podcast where you level up. This is the podcast where you get better, where you focus on your mindset, and we do all we can to continue to make life pivots because we know those are the things that allow us to have the kind of life that we desire. So, man, in this episode, I'm going to talk about playing small. And I came up with this thought of this episode because I think, in conversating, and a lot of you guys know that I'm a coach. I work with people all the time around either areas of mindset or areas of business. And what I've realized is that most people aren't necessarily being able to accomplish what they want to accomplish because they don't have ability. It's not because they don't have desire. It's not even because they don't have resources. What I've realized is that most people don't have what in life they desire is because they're playing too small. And playing small is a disease, y'all. Like, playing small for many people is something that it creeps up on you. If you're not careful, playing small becomes a lifestyle, and it becomes truly a way that you look at every circumstance, every opportunity. Really, playing small is a mentality where every way and everything that you calculate in your life, you're always thinking, okay, what if the worst happens? Or what if I can just get this? You're always defending the least. You're always trying to figure out how I can get the least, how I can make the least, how I can just get in the door, how I can just get going. Like, it's such a lack in a scarcity mentality. And so in this episode, I want to really dive deep into how to stop playing so small, and ways that I have tried to find in my life, and things that I've caught myself doing when it came to playing small. Because, as mentioned, playing small is almost like a disease. Like, you won't necessarily notice that you're playing small until sometimes you get called out by somebody else, or you find yourself in an environment that is not conducive to you. And you ask yourself the question, like, how did I get into this environment? And you realize the reason that you're in that environment is because you've played small, like all the people that are in that environment. So let's talk about this concept of playing small. So, playing small is, again, as I talked about, is a disease. And you have an ability to escape this disease and get healed from this disease called playing small. Playing small, I think, is something that a lot of us, we learn as a child. We learn growing up. We learn by the environment that we were brought up in. We learn by the conversations that our parents had with us. We learn by what people have said to us about what we could or couldn't do. We learn by the media. We learn by politics. Like, the world that we live in is such a playing small kind of world. It's a world that says, I don't want to take up too much space. I don't want to be too much. Let me just do this little thing over here. Let me just start this little business. Let me just have this regular old life. Let me just have this regular marriage. And I think that we play way too small, way too often. And here is the piece for me that really showed me that I was playing small. So, quick story. I was at a mastermind and working with one of my coaches. It was like a weekend mastermind. And it was, I want to say, 4 days of just intensive mindset work, development work, really getting clear on goals, really getting intentional about the kind of life that you wanted to create. And it was a really powerful mastermind. Powerful. Like, I came out of that thing definitely changed, hitting the ground running, ready to go. And in the mastermind, there was a segment where my coach asked us all a question. So the question that he asked us was, hey, in 10 years, how much money do you really want to make? And he said, think big. Like, I want you guys to think extremely big of, man, in 10 years, how much money would you like to make? Whether that's in the bank account or how much money you're seeing per year, right? You define what that looks like for you. And so he gave us some time, and, then he asked the room to share. And he asked me, hey, Justin, how much money would you want to make in 10 years or have in the bank in 10 years? And I said, I would love to have $10 million in the bank in 10 years. And he said, okay. And again, he went around the room and asked every single person that was in the room, how much money did they want to make in 10 years? And everybody gave him their answer. And then he asked everyone in the room, hey, why can't you make that in the next 12 months? And dude, when I tell you that everything in me just like clammed up, like, oh crap, like, okay. And what I begin to do is I begin to make up reasons on why I couldn't make $10 million in 12 months. I said, man, I don't even know where I would store this much money, how I divide it up, what bank accounts I could put it in. I said that, man, I don't have anything right now that I could sell or develop that's $10 million, right? Like I continue to make up all these excuses on why I couldn't make $10 million in 10 years. And what person after person that went around the room had this conversation or was talking through this, what it came out is that all of us in that room were fighting to play small. And what I mean by that is we all were trying to make up reasons why we couldn't accomplish the audacious and the big. And we had all these excuses on why we couldn't do it. I don't know how to do it. I've never done it before. I don't know what to do with that much money. I don't know anybody that can, like, everybody had a really good, legitimate excuse on why they should continue to think and play small. And I realized in that moment, and it was a big aha moment in the room, that, man, we so often fight to play small. As just in the fabric of who we are, we fight to be regular. We fight to be average. We fight to play small. And it showed me that, man, I have this mindset that if I don't consistently check it, that it will muscle itself up and it will take over many areas of my life. And so one of the biggest determiners and one of the biggest ways to know if you're playing small is if, in the scenario that I went through, is I asked myself a long-term goal, and then I asked myself, why couldn't I accomplish that in a significantly lower amount of time, at least a little amount of time. And it brought all these limiting beliefs. It brought all these things on why I couldn't. And truly, I could have used that same brain power to think of why I could accomplish that same goal in 12 months. And here's the reality of it. If someone asked me, hey, Justin, if you don't make $10 million in the next 12 months, everybody that you know dies. Everybody, your friends, your family, your coworkers, your church, like everything and everybody that you know and love dies if you don't make $10 million in 12 months. Guess what I would do, y'all? Your boy would figure out a way to make it happen. I'm just going to get it done. I am going to figure out a way to make it happen. I would throw all of my excuses out the window. I would throw all of my limitations out the door, and I would be focused on not trying to look apart, not trying to be a person, not trying to make anybody happy, but I would be focused on hitting that $10 million in 12 months because I wanted my family to stay alive. Facts. And so why don't we do that on a normal basis? Why don't we have that kind of intentionality and that kind of energy every single day that we wake up? Why don't we move with that kind of purpose and that kind of vigor and that kind of fire to truly do everything that God has called us to do? And so it showed me that, man, we play small way too often, because when I'm not moving in that way, when I'm not moving with that sense of urgency, it tells me that I'm playing small, and it tells me that I've got this arrogance that says that I can do tomorrow what I should be starting today. I'll repeat that again. When I don't move with urgency, when I don't take action on what I know God has called me to, I have an arrogance that says that I can do tomorrow what I know God has given me vision, prosperity, desire, and passion to do today. And so, family, we got to stop playing small. In what ways have you been playing small? Linda Rottenberg, she's a a founder of a really successful nonprofit organization called Endeavor Global. And they really support like high impact entrepreneurs worldwide and things of that nature. And a quote that she said is, if you're not called crazy when you start something new, then you're not thinking big enough. If when you think of something new, if people don't call you crazy, if people don't figure out ways to poke holes in your ideas, then truly you're not thinking big enough. In fact, when you come up with a new idea, when you come up with something new, you should anticipate that people will say that you can't do it. Truly, if people aren't saying that you can't do it, you should be offended and you should start to think, man, I'm playing way too small. Like your dreams have to be that big. They have to be that audacious because the kind of God that we serve is that big and that audacious. And so you need to stop being shocked when people call your ideas crazy. You've got to stop being so insulted when people say you can't do it, because that is the fact and reason why you need to not lean on your own strength, but that you got to lean on God's strength and what he can give you and the grace and the favor that he can give you to walk the thing out. Because truly, if it's not crazy to somebody, it's an average small level of thinking. And so family, how are we playing small? In what ways this year have you been playing small? Man, we are in the second month, the first quarter still of a new year. Are you still playing small? Like how audacious are the goals that you have? Have you settled into an average mediocre life? Have you without intentionality just have made the decision that, you know what, I'm just going to live a little old meager life. I'm not going to do too much. I'm not going to get too crazy. I'm not trying to make too much money. I just want to live in this normal life and have this man, there's the principle, the hard, easy principle and the easy, hard principle. The easy, hard principle says that everything that starts off easy eventually gets hard. And so many of us try to start off and live an easy life. But the truth is that everything that starts off easy eventually gets hard. If you live a life only making easy decisions, you're going to live a very, very hard life. You only want to have easy conversations. You only want to be in rooms that are easy. You only want to take opportunities that are easy for you to get. You are going to have a very hard, challenging, traumatic life. But I tell you, family, that if you make the decision to continue to make the hard decisions in your life, that you develop yourself, that you keep and cultivate a growth mentality, that, man, I can do the hard things in my life. Man, I love the statement that my wife and I have really leaned into when it came to raising our children. And that is, hey, guys, you can do hard things. It came out of this thought my kids would say very often when something was hard, they didn't want to do it. And they would say, man, this is too hard, or I can't do it. This is too hard. And instead of validating the complexity and the challenge with the hard thing, what we did was we motivated and incentivized the fact that you can do hard things, that just because something is hard doesn't mean that you can't do it. And many of us were never taught that as a child, that, hey, just because something is hard don't mean you can't do it. Just because something hasn't been done before doesn't mean you can't accomplish it. And I want to encourage you in this episode that, man, to stop playing small and the fact that you can do hard things. And if your dreams are not being scrutinized, if your goals are not being talked about, if people don't think that you're crazy on the path of getting what you know that God has called you to, you might be thinking too small, family. And so, man, I just want to encourage you in that. Let's continue to think big. Let's continue to think audaciously, and let's continue to go after every single thing that God has called us to get. All right, family, that's all I have for you in this episode. Thank you for checking out this episode. As always, please give this podcast a rating. Please just give this podcast a review. As you're on Apple, as you're on Spotify, drop a comment, man. It truly is the only way that this podcast grows. It's the only way that people know that this is a great place to be and that this is the place that if this podcast is giving you any value. And so I thank you again for checking out this episode. All right, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.